you okay with starting, and then Monty can just kind of come in and we'll just go from there.
Doesn't matter.
It's on officially. This is the one that's going to go around to all of you, should we get to that point. So I just want to make sure, should I speak into this?
Sure, if you want.
With that?
Yeah.
Hear me? All right, so welcome everybody to class today, freshman seminar. We're in Dear Love, Professor Muller's and Professor Hatton's class together. Today we have Dave Morrissey, and Dave Morrissey's of Original Works. We have all of the names on the placards in front, just in case you didn't understand when I was going through. We also have Kate Austin Avon from Advocate. And they both are here to speak to you about marketing, retailing, sales promotion, social media. Dr. Strang's going to join us to talk about some supply chain management that he is offering through Plattsburgh. So that's going to be an opportunity for you to ask him questions. And Monty Liu, who currently owns Monty's Discount Wine and Liquors, will be here to talk about retailing. My guess is he's probably caught up in the store right now. He also has some real estate investments, and he's also been a very big supporter of SUNY Adirondack in the past, as have the two that we have in front of us right now. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of turn it over to them. I'm not sure who wants to start speaking first, either Dave or Kate, and apparently it's going to be Dave. And you can start just telling us a little bit about what you've done, who you're about, and we'll go from there.
So this is on? Okay. Again, my name is Dave Morrissey. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Original Works. Original Works is based in Saratoga Springs. We are in sort of a unique niche. We're a 25-year-old business, and we're an art-based fundraising business. So we work with schools around the country, and we take sort of the model, the typical ad specialties model, where maybe somebody would come in and want 50 or 100 mugs or mouse pads made from their school logo or artwork or whatever. And we've kind of taken that model and tipped it upside down. So what we do is go into the schools and we take artwork that each child has done in class and then reproduce it for each child on a variety of products that they or their parents can select. So it might be coffee mugs, mouse pads, t-shirts, tiles, whatever. And the schools use this as an opportunity to advance art in the school, advance the art curriculum, but also they use it as a fundraiser. So our corporate headquarters and one of our manufacturing sites is based just outside of Saratoga Springs, off Saratoga Lake. And we have a second manufacturing facility in Amsterdam, New York. We have 6 inside sales representatives in our sales department that I work very closely with. We also have another 30 independent sales representatives scattered throughout the country. So we cover the entire country with this program, and we also have started to expand, so we have some international business both overseas and up in Canada. Our primary niche is the schools, and within that, the sort of the kindergarten or preschools up through about 5th or 6th grade. And obviously our busiest times of year are this time of year from now up until about the holidays, and then when school reconvenes in January through May or June. So that's sort of the overview of Original Works and who I am. I'll let Kate introduce herself, and then maybe we can circle back and get into a little more detail about what we do, and then I actually have some questions for you guys too.
So I'm Kate Austin Avon of Advocate LLC, just established the LLC thing. Advocate is a business that is based in Glens Falls, and what we do is empower artists, nonprofits, startups, and small businesses, that's the fourth thing, with the marketing tools that you need to be successful. So that's stuff like logos and websites and PR and marketing. And I'm self-employed. I started off with this being a part-time venture, and now it's a full-time venture, and it's also employing my husband part-time. So in 5 years we've grown that much. And should I talk about how I got there? All right, okay. So I was always the kid in high school that was just like on my computer all the time. And this was kind of before that was everybody's thing. Like, everybody's on the computer all the time, right? They're on their phones now. But it was, back in the 90s, and my dad would be like, go to bed, get off the computer. And I'd be there, like, designing websites and stuff, just because I like to do it. And I never went to school for it. I actually went to school for art. And then went, what am I going to do with this art degree? And I didn't want to be a teacher. So I dropped out and worked with teenagers for a couple of years, and then I got a job selling vacuums door to door, and I was a mall janitor, and I got all these crazy jobs. So I did customer service for a Teflon company over in Queensbury. So I've had all these crazy jobs, but all of these skills that I learned at those jobs came together along with just the things that I was interested in. So my art degree helps with what I do. My interest in computers and design and being addicted to the internet helps what I do. And then some of the customer service and sales that I learned in these other jobs helped me to get this thing put together. And when I started, I was like, I don't know, I'd call it Advocate. I don't know what it's going to be, but that sounds like a good name, right? And it started off, I was thinking I would be like the honey-do man for artists. Like, I would just do whatever my artist friends needed, because a lot of them didn't have the same skills that I did. Like, they were good at art, or they were good at framing, or they were good at whatever that business was that they were doing, but then there's all this other stuff that goes along with it in terms of marketing that not everybody has those skills. So I would say, well, what do you need done? And they'd be like, well, you could pass out these flyers, or you can hang these posters up around town. And then once they learned that I could build a website and do a logo, they were like, well, do that, because it's really useful stuff. And so it's really evolved in that direction since then. And now I've done websites for the town of Lake George and for the Glens Falls Chronicle newspaper, and I've done work for the city of Glens Falls, and for I did a map for the greater Glens Falls transit, for the bus, and all kinds of stuff. So it's gone from this kind of, I don't know where I'm supposed to be moment in my 20s to now I'm 33 and I feel like I'm on a path, and it's all the stuff that I'm good at, that I like doing, and it all came together. So now I'm getting into like the later part, but if there's stuff that you like doing, do it, and do it really well and keep doing it. That's my advice. All right, well, I'll talk more later. Let's go back to you. Okay.
Would you like us to go?
I think maybe we can talk about some marketable skills, some of the classes that maybe you suggest that students take, what you would be looking for if you were looking to hire someone, all those things that perhaps students in the freshman seminar don't really think about, haven't thought about in the future yet, should be thinking about now.
All right, and Kate, thanks for bringing up your background, because I sort of neglected, I jumped into where I am now, but in terms of my education or background, I have an undergraduate degree in business with also a minor in psychology, and I'll come back to that in a few minutes because I found that to be helpful. And then I have an MBA from RPI, And the first few jobs that I haven't had as varied a career. That's really very interesting. But I started out more in sales. My first couple of jobs out of college, selling stock listings to newspapers was the very first job, and then got into more selling data processing services and accounting software back in the 80s and early 90s, and then sort of shifted slowly more into the marketing role, and that's the role that I've played here at Original Works for the last 15 years that I've been there. One of the things that I often get asked about marketing is, what is that exactly? It's often easier to say, well, I'm an accountant or a CPA or an attorney or an engineer, and people know exactly what that is, but quite often I'm asked, what is marketing? What is the definition of marketing? So I just ask you, can somebody tell me in their own words what marketing means to you guys? Don't all jump at once.
Some of you have had my marketing classes before, so I know that you know what marketing is. Hold on.
How to get the consumer to buy a product.
Okay, that's certainly one of the end results, yes. Anybody else? Okay. Well, we'll get back to that because that is certainly the end result. Let me read you the abbreviated definition from the American Marketing Association of what they say marketing is, and there's three elements in here that I sort of want to cover off on or talk a little bit about. So, according to the American Marketing Association, marketing is the activity of creating, communicating, and delivering offerings that have value for customers, clients, and/or society at large. Okay, so the three, and there's more verbiage in there, but that's the essence of it. And so those are sort of the three things that I wanted to talk a little bit about today, and sort of relate that both to my work, but also to the kinds of courses that you guys may want to consider taking. Okay. So creating, communicating, delivering. Let's start with creating. When you think about creating, what do you think about? What's the first thing that sort of comes to mind? Well, for me, the first thing that would come to mind is, well, all right, we get to be creative. Okay, so we get to get into the design elements and the copy for the ads and all of that. But and that certainly is an important element to it, but there are a lot of steps that take place before you get to be creative. And as Kate can probably tell you, you can't really just start out being creative without knowing your market and who you're creating for and so on. So creativity in my mind sort of comes more toward the end of the process. First, you have to do a lot of understanding. You have to figure out, well, who is your market? Who is your audience? What are their needs? If you don't understand their needs, then you're not going to be able to get them to buy your product or service. So as far as the market goes, who is the competition? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are your strengths and weaknesses? So there's a lot of preparation first in really understanding what it is that you're going to be able to offer and how you're going to do it better than someone else. Where do you get that information? Well, you can get that from studying the market, surveying, asking your customers. I do a lot of interfacing with our sales team, both outside and inside, and we do regular surveys with all of our customers. I use Constant Contact as one way to reach those customers at the end of each season to find out what we did wrong, what we did right, what they thought about the new product introductions, our pricing matrix, a variety of information that then we sort of sit down and look at and brainstorm on as to how we're going to make our offering better. Focus groups is another way to really get at that information and understand your market. And it takes a lot of preparation, takes a lot of work. There can be a lot of data involved in that. Particularly if you're doing, surveying your customers and trying to analyze that data, or you have an online survey and you're pulling those ratings off. So that sort of got me to thinking about, well, what classes would I recommend to help you guys shore up that piece of marketing? And so the first one that comes to mind for me, and that it took undergrad and graduate, would be probability and statistics class that's oriented towards business, not so much the math major side, I guess, but more the business prob and stats. I think another one would be a class, if you have it here, in entrepreneurship, because that too gets you really thinking about how to be creative, also how to develop business plans, because really as a part of doing this, you need to develop a complete marketing plan. It needs to include some of those elements. So that's really the first, is create. Any questions or input on that?
I just will add in that we do have an entrepreneurship class,
Okay,
which
good.
is great, and Kate was wonderful enough to come in and speak to my class last week, so
Great.
some of you in this class may have been in that one. And absolutely, statistics, we recommend very strongly once our students can get through their basic math classes, and we know that when they transfer on, stats is required, or some of the four-year programs are calling it quantitative business analysis, something very similar, but
Yes.
stats is really important.
I have two others, but I don't want to, if you want to switch back and forth, do you want to get into some of what you're talking about, and then I'll come back to
I just had
this?
ideas that you put in my head, so
All right.
I could tell everybody what they are.
Yeah, why don't you, and then
All right.
I didn't want to
And then
take
we'll
all
go
this
back.
time. Yes.
Okay. So you said you have a degree in psychology?
I had a minor,
A minor in
psychology, right.
I think that's huge in marketing, is to at least know the basics of psychology. A lot of sales and marketing is just trying to get people's heads in to figure out how they work and what they respond to. So that's huge. I would say that learning some psychology, if you're into marketing, is important. And as another kind of offbeat thing, I would say that a basic art class, if you're doing anything with design, or any of this creative stuff, you want to know how to visually put something together, and just kind of learning that composition of. I think it translates to a lot. If somebody can't compose something and have it work and understand the importance of color on psychology, or just basic of balance, of something, like if it's centered, it gives you this kind of a feeling. If it's off, it gives you this kind of a feeling. If you guys are using Instagram or stuff like that, like you're using these basics of art class to try to compose something that's interesting to people. So I guess that's it's more a basic element of design, but I think it makes you think in a certain way that would be helpful. I'll pass that to you.
No, that's a very good point in terms of the creative elements and the graphic elements. I can't draw a stick figure, but thankfully one of the gals I work with, can, and so there's a nice synergy there, because I'm stronger on the written and communication side, where she's far stronger on the graphics and the visual elements. So, you know, together we can usually pull it together pretty well, but I agree, you know, an arts or some graphics classes definitely helps to round that out. So that's the create. The second thing that we were going to talk a little bit about is communicate or communication. So once you better understand your market, you have that product or service that you want to bring to market, you need to figure out how you're going to best communicate that. So presumably at this point you understand what you're going to say, so it's now how you're going to say it, it's your messaging. And you need to do that not only creatively, as I said, in my mind the creativity comes more at the end of the process, so you have to be creative so that you stand out, but you also have to do it in a way that is concise and impactful. And then you have to decide a little bit on the mediums that you're going to use. You know, is it going to be print, email campaigns, social media, advertisements, and so on. So thinking a little bit about what is going to give you the most impact. Obviously, you know, none of us have unlimited budgets. So being able to sort of plan that out and budget what your expenditures are going to be is, you know, another important element of it. So certainly basic accounting comes in there to, you know, understand how to create and adhere to budgets. Related to communications, again, in my mind, is writing skills. And those are so critical to being successful, I believe, in marketing. You know, Kelly had asked, well, what classes would we be recommending, or what skill sets do we look for? For me, one of the skills certainly is writing, and I see that right off when I get a resume and a cover letter, and that's the first thing that I evaluate on a person is, you know, how well have they written this? What does their resume look like? Are there typos all over the place? Is there, you know, poor grammar or whatever? And that's sort of the first, in my mind, big cut. So you know, in English class, something that focuses on creative writing or business writing is key. And I'm not sure, Kelly, whether that's part of their curriculum or an elective, but that would definitely be something that you know, that I would strongly recommend. The other thing, you know, if you're up for it, and even if you're not, would be to take a public speaking class. You know, a lot of the opportunities to present your product or service come at trade shows or conventions or, you know, presentations to your particular audience or business groups or whatever. So to have a little training in that and how to communicate verbally as well as, you know, written word, I think is important.
Or an acting class.
Or, there you go.
Can I jump in there for one
Yes,
sec?
please.
So everybody is required to take 2 English classes. One is a very basic college composition class. The secondary class we typically recommend is a technical writing class, and that is to help the business students learn to write. We do also recommend a speech class, and some of you are just starting your careers here at SUNY Adirondack, but that speech class, depending upon who you have as professor, there is one that's known on campus for having the students go to Aviation Mall and stand in front of anybody that happens to be walking by Aviation Mall and speak. And it becomes really great because all of a sudden you're outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
And that's really what this communication level has to be. The secondary part, or maybe the tertiary part of that, you might think that us as professors are really difficult in our grading style for you. but we are 100% supportive of what you're saying with cover letters and resumes. If you are not going to properly address someone, or if you're going to misspell, have any kind of grammatical error, automatically it's points off, it's percentages off, or your paper is just returned. When it's written in a proper college fashion, it'll be graded. But that is because that's the way the real world is, and we can't just let you get away with it now.
And I can actually speak to a little bit of the hiring process. I've had interns and I've had temps, and I've hired people, and a lot of it has been college student age people, and so I can tell you what I couldn't tell them to their faces. All right. So yeah, your writing skills are really important. If I'm giving you my Instagram account and letting you post as me, or letting you post as me on Facebook, and you misspell something or you have a run-on sentence, like, oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed. So that stuff is really important. And I know it's like, it's just the internet and you don't expect it to be, but if you're representing somebody else's brand, or if you're representing your own brand, like, that is so important. You just look dumb otherwise. And so, like, it's really important to learn those skills, and then to not be lazy about it. Another thing there's all these articles about, like, how to hire millennials and how to give them what they need in order to thrive, and I'm completely lumping all of you together, and I'm sure everybody is completely an individual, but if you hire, like, somebody who's like 60 years old, they have a completely different work ethic than the general millennial population. So here's some stuff. If you want to stand out, show up on time, don't call in sick. I mean, like, really, really be sick. Not like, oh, my cousin's friend died 2 weeks ago. Like, go to work. Just do your best. Try to figure things out on your own. Some of the stuff that drives me nuts is when there's Google at your fingertips. Like, why are you asking me for something? Like, you're perfectly capable of figuring out anything. You guys can teach yourselves anything, and you know that, right? I mean, the internet is there. You can figure anything out. You guys could, like, teach yourselves Adobe Illustrator overnight if you really wanted to. So I think if you super buckle down and, like, want to do something, you can do it. You can do anything. Dressing up. So nobody dresses up anymore, but I think this really sets you apart. Like, if you show up for a job interview, or you go to class and you dress up, you're gonna stand out because your peers don't dress up. And you'd be like, it's a little thing, but my mom used to tell me, if you go to the emergency room, don't go in your sweatpants. Like, dress nice, because they will pay better attention to you. And I found this to be true. Like, the times that I've gone in my sweatpants, it takes so much longer to get somebody to, like, come and, take care of you when you go in and you're, like, dressed, like, oh yes, I'm a professional person. People treat you like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so, especially when it counts, like when you're going to work or when you're going to a job interview, if you dress up, it makes a difference. People look at you differently. And maybe that's not the way it should be, but it's true. Just that polish sets you apart. And like, I was always a kid who loved dressing up, like all green on St. Patrick's Day. So when I get dressed in the morning, I'm like, ooh, what am I doing today? All right, I've got the meeting with that yoga studio, so I'm gonna wear my peace sign earrings, I'm selling myself to that person, So this is my speaking in front of people outfit. So that matters. I went off on a tangent. Where were we?
Well, I think you're making a good point that impressions count, first impressions.
Yes.
So you all, in the two of you that have joined us today, which is very nice, thank you. You have an impression of everybody in this class right now. So I'm sure speaking up there, you're seeing who is paying attention to you, who's taking notes. Obviously, we had one person that spoke so far, but maybe there'll be a few others that'll speak. That's a first impression. And anybody in this class could potentially become employed by you at some point, and this is the first impression that you're getting from them, and it may be a good impression, it could be a poor impression. It doesn't matter really where you are. When you walk into my classroom, I get an impression of all of you, where you sit, how you act, how you sit, how you stand, whatever it may be. And then again, back to that writing and the communication, that is a huge portion of the impression that you're getting. So I think what both of you are saying is vital.
And, I wanted to sort of add to what Kate said about, about the impressions and also the, the interviewing. Two other things that I'll just warn you guys on. If you're going for an interview as an intern or, a job or anything like that, first think about what your message is on your cell phone. Because if I'm impressed enough by your resume, then I'm gonna call you and it's the answering machine or cell phone and I get a, yo, leave a message, versus a professional, hi, this is Dave Morrissey, I'm sorry I missed your call, blah, blah, blah. That can leave a positive or negative impression. Second thing, Facebook.
I would totally stalk you on Facebook.
Okay,
if you
absolutely. We will stalk you on Facebook. And I can't tell you, 2 years ago I had an opening for a pretty big position and it was 50 or 60 resumes at a time coming in. And I would call them down in two piles in terms of, well, the next thing was, before even a call, was a Facebook stalk. And I would be on there, and if I didn't like what I saw, I may still call them, but they sort of weren't my first call. So all going back to what Kate and Kelly are saying in terms of impressions, we know how to use those tools too, and we will, because obviously we want to hire the best people that we can.
Well, everybody's representing you and the brands that you represent at any time. And all of you, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or even Snapchat, is going to have the ability to stay forever. There are always ways to find information that you put out there digitally. You do it to yourselves, so you're putting yourself in this position if you decide that you're going to have perhaps a negative post of some sort or a post that just isn't professional. So you really need to consider what you say and what you do in the public eye.
And that's not to say to not have a personality or to have, because you guys are of a certain age, if you're partying, whatever, that's less likely to worry me than so if you're being racist or you can't spell on Facebook or something like that, that is nope, not that person. For example, one person I hired, she was really embarrassed. She was like, I'm not going to tell you what my Instagram handle is, but I found it. And it was these artistic photos of her, but some of them were her in a bikini. And I'm I was fine with that, actually, but I wasn't fine with her being all about this drama on Twitter that she had going on, so every employer is a little bit different, and Advocate is kind of I'm getting older, but it's more of a young brand that I'm trying to stay on top of the trends and everything and go with the flow a little bit, but some of the stuff that just drives me nuts is drama, is intolerance, and really bad spelling. I just can't deal with it. So I had something else, but I forgot it.
Interrupt me.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions so far on what we've covered, which is at least for my piece, create and communicate. Okay. So the third element in this definition was delivery or delivering the offerings or value to your customer base, okay? And it's to me kind of an interesting piece of the definition because you think about delivering the product as maybe, in our case, at Original Works, more manufacturing's job, okay? You know, marketing did their piece, now manufacturing is, you know, scanning in the artwork, uploading things, producing the products, customer or, you know, quality control, packing it, and shipping it. But the truth of the matter is that marketing plays a pretty important role in that delivery mechanism as well. You know, for one, we're often involved in designing the final packaging that our products are going out in. You know, the design of the boxes and again, how things are going to be packed. You know, we may be involved in designing the information that goes back to the school in terms of the additional marketing material for people who didn't get to order the first time but want to reorder or, you know, order for the first time. Designing some additional some brochures on some of the other products or services that we offer that the school may want to take advantage of. So that sort of goes in with their orders as with a coupon or something as a bounce back. So if they take advantage of this other service, they get a discount or something free or whatever. So there's, again, a lot of enhancement that marketing does in terms of the delivery of our products. So once again, going back, tying that back to you guys and starting out in your educational career, what does that mean for you in terms of courses or things that I would want to take advantage of there? I guess it's thinking about two things. One, as far as marketing goes, is being able to work really well as part of a cross-functional team. And we've talked a little bit about in the create and communicate stages, marketing working with your customers, with your sales force, with other experts in the particular field to better understand your market. And then as you're putting together your product line and developing the pricing strategy that you're going to use, you have to work with manufacturing, you have to work with purchasing and finance, who's going to be sourcing it. You may have a product development committee that tests things out so that you have the right combination. And that, to me, is one of the best parts of my job because it's not doing the same thing every day. And it sounds like you don't do the same thing every day either. And that's, I think, what makes it challenging. It makes it exciting. So being able to work well in a cross-functional team is key to being successful. Well, how do I learn how to do that? Or, you know, what courses could I take to help me achieve that? And the first one that, you know, so I talked earlier about my minor in psychology as one way to better understand, you know, how people think and function. But probably one of the most beneficial courses I took when getting my MBA was a course in organizational behavior. And I didn't realize the importance of it at the time. It was like, this is all the stuff you were supposed to learn in kindergarten. Yes?
I don't need to use it. What's an MBA?
Master's in Business Administration. But organizational behavior was supposed to be all the stuff you learned in kindergarten, you know, how to get along with others. And myself and a lot of my classmates used to sort of lament that, saying, well, no, I want the finance, I want the accounting, that's the stuff that I'm going to use. I already know all of this. But the truth is, as we started to get into that course, we used to label it hot tub management, you know, it's just all the touchy-feely stuff. But the reality is what I learned in that class, and even talking to my classmates, several of whom are local still years later, that's probably the one skill set that I use more than anything else, just about every day. Not only in interactions with customers, but probably even more so with you know, people that I supervise or my contemporaries, people on the teams. So again, you know, if school is offering that kind of a course, I would highly recommend that you take it and that you pay attention, because at least for me, I found that to be very useful.
Professor Matthews offers organizational behavior. If you are in the Management Marketing and Entrepreneurship AAS program and you choose the management track, you are required to take organizational behavior, but of course it is a class that would be really highly recommended if you could fit it into your program someplace, if you have an elective or you just choose that you want to take an additional class. That would be really important. And a lot of us do require group work in our business classes, and I know students lament having to do anything with groups because you don't want to work well with others. You don't like the fact that it doesn't always work out the way you plan on it, but it's part of life and it's the reality.
Yeah, and just to add to that, in the MBA program that I went through at RPI, probably 80 to 85% of the work that we did was group oriented. For that very reason, because they know that, you know, when you go out and get a job, that you're going to be working in teams, cross-functional teams or groups, and you know, you're going to need to figure out how to work together, and if you're managing that team, you need to figure out sort of the old putting everybody on the right seat on the bus, okay? What is this individual skill set? What is their skill set? And aligning them so that you get the most out of each individual and the most out of your team.
And delegation is really important. Yes. Delegating the right jobs to the right people. Just another piece of my story that I think has really helped me be where I am today was a lot of volunteering. I started to volunteer with an arts organization, and before I knew it, they were like, "Hey, you want to be on the board?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like 22, and then they were like, "You want to be a co-president?" And I did it, and I think that the things that I learned there, and this is, you know, you guys, anybody could start out volunteering and end up on a board of a nonprofit, I think, you know, small nonprofit to start. But, and that teaches you these similar skills about working on a project with other people, and maybe working on a project with other people who aren't your peers, and that I think it would be good for you guys to learn how to work on a par with people who, you know, they might be like your grandma's age, you know, and you're all just working on this project together, and to be able to learn the skills that you need to get along with people, get things done, say you're going to do something and do it, and to just kind of see the mechanics of what goes into planning. A lot of nonprofits are really events-based, and event marketing is a big part of it, and a lot of them need help and could really use your help and use your expertise. And these things that you're learning in school are not things that these people necessarily know, too. So you would be bringing something to them, and then it looks good on your resume.
I just threw in there, and maybe this will bring up some thoughts in your heads. Dave, I think you mentioned earlier about strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
When you're working in groups, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and you have to figure those out pretty quickly. And it's best, to make sure that you use what you have, but you also want to convert any weakness that you had. So maybe you're going to see somebody in the group doing something that you wish you had always been able to do. You can start to learn from them, and that's only going to increase your marketability. Again, the part of this program today is about marketing, but you are all marketing yourselves and branding yourselves at any moment, even if you decide that you don't want to get into the actual field or career of marketing.
That's sort of what I had put together for today, but I'm glad to answer any questions that anybody has. Or
We have about 5 minutes before Dr. Strang is going to show up. Who in here wants to get into marketing for a career? Who has an interest? Couple people. What interests you? See, I'm putting you on the spot.
You don't know what interests you? You do this? Are you taking a marketing class right now?
Yeah.
So with,
With Morris.
okay.
So is there anything in there he's helping you with that you're just, your ideas are going? Any part of the marketing mix he's talked about? We talked a little bit about pricing and packaging, a little bit about a promotion, creating products.
More towards like promoting stuff like that, how to sell things.
All right, so if you couldn't hear, talking about some promotion, how to potentially create some products, marketing in general so far is interesting, but you're in a 103 class, so you're just starting that process, okay?
How about you?
I guess just learning what people want and how to basically deliver it to them in a way that would make them want more. Yeah.
So really the consumer behavior aspect, trying to understand what the consumer wants. I could ask all of you probably a zillion questions about what you would want from SUNY Adirondack. We might get there in a second.
My question is, how did you find your niche? Yours is the school thing, the coffee mug, stuff like that. Yours is the website, whatnot. What is your advice on finding your niche?
do you mean niche as far as your career, or what you would be interested, say, within the field of
I guess.
marketing?
I don't know how to put it, but it's pretty much like her set of skills were, the websites and stuff like that. She
Right.
made her business into that. But what made you guys both, I guess, decide to go that direction?
Well, I think for me it was trying out a lot of different things, and zeroing in on particular aspects of it that I felt I was strongest at. As I said, I can't draw at all, but when it comes to the analytical piece, or the communication as far as the writing, I just found sort of over time, holding a variety of different positions, that's where my strengths were. So that was sort of the direction I migrated. Kate, how about?
So if you guys are in marketing classes now and you end up in marketing, you are lucky people. I like to say that life doesn't go in a straight line. It's kind of, I did know that I always wanted to be an artist, and I'm a painter, this is one of my paintings. But I'm not making my living painting. That was maybe the straightest of lines, but there was the dropping out of school thing for me, there was working with at-risk youth for me, there was all these crazy jobs, good boyfriends, bad boyfriends. No kind of a like, so, you know, you go to college, you get a job out of college, you meet the love of your life happily ever after. For me, life did not go in a straight line. It did end up being, so, you know, sometimes you're in the woods and like, you're looking around for where's the path? Where did the path go? And like, everything looks like a path. Like, well, I could go that way. I think that's a path, but maybe this is the path. And eventually you just start walking and you figure it out. And I love when things just kind of click. Like, if there's anything that's clicked for me, I worked for 2 years at the Chronicle I was hired to be the arts editor because the arts editor was going to move away, and she didn't move away. And so they said, well, you can stay, but you're going to do the calendar. So I did that for a while, and I wasn't good at it, and I felt horrible quitting that job. Like, it was the end of the world. Like, that, you know, I'm not good at this. So, cut to several years later, and as I'm quitting, my boss, Mark Frost, the publisher of the paper, the founder of the paper, said, you know what, you should start a business. And I was like, all right. So that's why I started a business. And I listened to people. That was a big thing, was listening to people. I had a rough few years where everybody told me that my boyfriend was terrible, and I was like, you don't know, we're in love. And after I realized that he actually was terrible, I realized that if there's something that everybody is saying to you, you should listen. And so similarly, if everybody is saying to you, you're so good at whatever the thing is, and you like it, go in that direction, just go. So the Chronicle thing. So several years later, I pitched them this idea that, so I have this cute kid and I could write stories for your paper about my cute kid, and this is all of the reasons why that would be beneficial to you guys. That's a big thing in marketing. Not what do I get out of it? What do you get out of it? And so for the past 2 years, I write a column for the Chronicle, and I design their website. So here's this like moment of like, oh my gosh, I failed at everything, and then it all came around. So that's where like you have to do the thing where you make lemons out of lemonade. Sometimes you're going to think that you know exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's the end of the world because you're not there. But if you can be resilient and roll with the punches and take life lessons from anything that life is throwing at you, just whatever crummy thing happened to you, what can you learn from that? You'll be all right. You'll figure it out.
Did that help answer your question? How many of you in here know right now what you want to do for a career? So this is the reason why we're having these panels, because you really, you're starting off, a lot of you are very traditional students. You're coming in right out of high school for the most part, and you don't know what you want to do. So having these panels and introducing you to people that are in the careers that may have taken several paths and try to figure out what they want. They say right now that the average number of jobs you're going to have before you really find that career is 14. That's a pretty significant number where you're really just trying to figure out what you're going to do. Take the path, take the one that you think you want to take, and then maybe you'll figure out that that's not the right one, and it doesn't hurt to say, you know what, I made a mistake, it's not for me, and then go on to the next one. And again, a significant number of you, like all of you, said you have no idea really what you want to do for a career yet. That is why we're doing this. That's part of this freshman seminar. That's part of all these classes that you are going to be taking. So thank you, Dr. Strang. This is Dr. Strang. We'll just kind of introduce, thank you for passing that over. We just went through, and Dave and Kate have gone through and discussed a little bit about marketing and why they are doing what they're doing and where they're at right now. We would love to hear from you. I know that you just finished class, so you're probably exhausted from lecturing. But if you could give us a few minutes of your time and fill the students in on what you do with supply chain management especially, that would be fantastic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Well, as you mentioned, actually supply chain management is not my primary field. I'm actually the business administration program coordinator and the supply chain minor coordinator at SUNY Plattsburgh, but I work in Queensbury. Most students are interested in, what does supply chain management mean? And does that make a lot of money if you're working in that field? So I guess, let me explain, kind of what supply chain management is. Supply chain management is not my primary working discipline. I'm actually cross-disciplinary. My first job actually was working for these guys here, Blue Cross. And I was actually working as an actuary. So, and I got that job from being in a co-op. And that is basically a statistics management and analysis role. Supply chain management actually means moving goods and services from throughout the organization. That's the official definition. But what's happened is that many practitioners have expanded that definition. They've expanded it to include marketing, human resource management. So basically, they've grown the field of supply chain management. The typical types of functions that you're going to see in supply chain management would be job titles such as a coordinator of logistics. So logistics means shipping and transportation. Another type of job that you might see in supply chain management would be project manager. Another job might be warehouse manager or distribution manager. Another job you might see would be a procurement manager. Now you notice I've been using that word manager, right? Wouldn't you like to sort of have that title in front of your name on your business card? So, when you whip your business card out there, it says, what's your name? Megan. So manager Megan, manager of the warehouse, or manager of manufacturing. So basically, that's kind of what supply chain management is. And just to give you an idea of the types of salaries, if you go out there and if you Google supply chain manager salaries, we'll do that for any job that you're interested in doing. And then add with a degree on the end of it. Associates, what are you guys getting associates in? Have you decided yet? Business, psychology, it's all business?
Everybody in here should be business of some sort, whether it's a transfer or an AAS.
Exactly. So basically, if you do a search, you're going to find that jobs where you have a 4-year degree, the median salary, when I looked up the other day at Bureau of Labor Statistics, was, I wrote it down here on my piece of paper, it's around $73,000. So we're going to say $73,000. Actually, it's on this side of my piece of paper here. Right here. There it is right there. $73,000. So $73,000, that's the median salary. So a median salary, what does that tell you? There are lower salaries and there are higher salaries. By comparison, if you were a manager of human resource management, the salary might be a bit lower than that, might be around 55, 65. If you were in other types of positions, let's say a project manager type role, the salaries would be a little bit higher than that. They'd be around, I think the median is around 85,000. If you're a project manager in the healthcare industry, or MIS, what you call management information systems, or information technology, those tend to be the highest salaries. They're around 100,000 median salaries. Okay, if you have a 4-year degree. So that's kind of, this is why we offer these degrees, is to help prepare students for the workforce. Or let me use another term, to help students earn a lot of money. Okay, that's the bottom line.
Does anybody have any questions at all on anything that has to do with supply chain management? Some of you may have just been starting to learn about some of that in marketing classes specifically. Does it sound interesting to any of you? I'm sure the money has probably caused you to at least perk up. Questions from anybody? He mentioned Bureau of Labor Statistics. BLS.gov is the website for that. There is more information than you can ever imagine on there, but absolutely, if you're looking for an occupation, yes, you need to be happy in that occupation, but you also probably want to pay your bills. You want to make sure that something that you're doing is going to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, one other great website that I might point out for you is try Career Builder, CARER Builder.com. What I like about that site is it's great for you guys, you know, when you're starting your sophomore year, just before you hit your junior year, you know, start looking at what jobs are available, because, you know, you're going to end up with an associate degree. And one of the biggest questions you're going to have for yourself is, look, what is the ROI, the return on investment, if I go right into, you know, a transfer and get a bachelor degree versus if I don't bother getting my bachelor degree. So, you know, I encourage people to do the research for yourself, because, you know, depending on the career that you select, you know, you may not need a 4-year degree. You know, but these days, you know, I think you absolutely have to have an associate's degree. You want to get one from a good quality institution. You know, SUNY Adirondacks, well known. You know, if you mention SUNY Adirondack anywhere outside New York State, they're gonna know what you're talking about, SUNY. And you know, if you're willing to move, then chances are the further you go to a large city, well, the more competition you're going to have. And there are more universities in big cities. And guess what? In order to be competitive, you're going to need to have a bachelor. In fact, you know, what I tell my students nowadays is that, you know, if you want to be at the executive level in any company, you're probably going to need to have a master's degree. So education never stops. And this is just your starting point.
Any questions from anybody regarding anything that we talked about today at all? Marketing, retailing, supply chain management, owning your own business, because we threw that in there because Kate is with Advocate and she has a different path, and so she has her own business. You're all very quiet.
Well, you know what? Even speaking of managing your own business, you know, I mean, I've had my own business. Actually, this is one of my other business cards. When I used to have a business, like many people, I've changed careers. So it's very common for people to change careers. In fact, it used to be 3 years or three careers, and you change every 5 to 7 years. But nowadays, I think it could be up to 5 times you'll change your career. And I don't mean change your job from one department to another job. I mean drastically change your career. I started off as an actuary, Blue Cross, and I worked for IBM. I worked as a project manager before I became a professor. So that's a career change. And that's going from 3 career changes nowadays to you can expect to have 5 career changes. And that's not to say that everybody's going to change careers, but it's a probability. And if you change careers, what you need for advancement and job security is that little piece of paper that says that you have XYZ associate degree. Okay, that's your ticket back into the workforce, and that eliminates a lot of competition out there. You know, if you get yourself a bachelor degree, well, that eliminates a lot more competition. So it's a very competitive world out there, even now that our economy is picking up a little bit. And what I suggest for students that are interested in starting their own business is do something that you have the skills and experience. And the way you get experience is go work for a company first. Find out how to do that business you want to start. Don't when you're 20 years old, don't start a business unless you're a genius, okay? I mean, if you're like, you know, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or one of those guys, you know, don't start your own business. Go and work for somebody for 5 to 10 years. Find out how that business model works. What's the process? How do you make a profit? How do you collect resources? What price can you charge? How do you win your clients? Then when you know the business model, then you're ready to go in business for yourself. And then you have some career experience to sell to your clients. Maybe even some clients at the same time. All depends.
Do you have any particular classes that we had asked that of Dave and Kate as well? Any particular classes that you would suggest our students with getting their associate's degree should take to be successful, whether they finish their associates and move on or go into a bachelor's?
Well, just on that last point, I highly recommend you finish your associates. In fact, when I see a student in a 4-year program, they don't have their associates, I tell them, go get that piece of paper. Two things have happened in society. We're evidence-driven and we're data-driven. So evidence-driven means people want to see proof that you've got your credentials. So get that piece of paper. Don't get 60 credits if you need 62 credits. Don't eat those other credits and get your degree. And the second thing is, for courses to take, you should be trying to, unless you've made up your mind on a career path, then you should be making yourself as general as possible, and you should be trying the other, what we call the business subdisciplines. You should be taking courses, if nothing else, to learn. If you like to go in the direction, you take courses like accounting, marketing, finance. Make sure you don't forget about your math. Okay, math is always haunting you in business. Okay, in fact, 2 courses which will help you a lot is if you make sure that you at least get your pre-calculus, and because if you plan on going too far in business, and in order to get to marketing, or any of the other subdisciplines, you still need to have those math courses. Many people assume that marketing has nothing to do, for example, with math. Well, market research has a lot to do with math. Market research is all about consumer behavior and statistics. Okay, if you're in advertising, then you're still number crunching. You're using profit margin, and you're using costs to produce advertisements to calculate your ROI. So math is always there in all the subdisciplines, so don't forget about that. And of course, you have to have good writing and communication skills. So presentation skills are also very important. So some of the other subdisciplines that you might want to consider, if you know you're going to a certain region, or if you want to stay in the region, then look at the economy in the region. What are the industries that are there? If you're planning on getting a job in the industry, you're going to want to look at what are going to be the available jobs. If you look at North Country, you're going to have hotel and tourism. It's a big industry here. There's a lot of finance here. There's some insurance here. Then there's a lot of the supply chain industry here. There are warehouses, there's trucks going up and down the Northway. I challenge you to go to the Northway any time of day and not find a car or a truck going up or down that Northway. Where do you think they're going? They're not on vacation. They're hauling goods. They're doing importing and exporting. We're simply hauling goods. So that's what generates a lot of work. So I guess take courses in different subdisciplines just to see if you'd be interested in continuing your career path in that direction. And the best advice that I can give you is talk to your advisor. You guys have advisors?
They don't have specific advisors, but all of their business professors are advisors, and we want to see you in our offices. And Professor Bettino snuck in before over there. If you haven't met Professor Bettino before, we are all about advising our students. Do not ever hesitate to knock on our doors. It's self-advising here. That's our model right now. But we encourage you to speak to us so you're taking the right classes that fit your needs. And your needs are going to change from one semester to another, your desires, your passions. We want to be helpful to make sure you're getting the end result that you're looking for. Any last questions from anyone at all? Any last advice from the panel members?
So remember when I told you guys I dropped out? Before I dropped out, I was sleeping in and missing classes and turning things in late. And after I dropped out, I worked for AmeriCorps for 2 years, and I went back to school, and I was paying out of pocket, and I was paying my student loans off at that time. And I realized that school costs money, and I sat up front and I raised my hand and I stayed late and I went and saw my professor because I was going to get my money's worth. So you guys are paying for this stuff. Get your money's worth, seriously. You don't want, to go later like, oh, I know I took that art history class, but I don't know what I paid for that art history class, and that info is not in my brain, and it's my fault. So, and now I feel dumb whenever I'm talking about art history with somebody. So, so you might be able to get your degree, but seriously, get your money's worth. And your professors are going to be super psyched that you're actually into what they're talking about. All right.
I think the only other thing would be, as you said earlier, most of you don't really know what you want to do yet, and I guess I'm here to tell you that's absolutely fine at the stage you're at right now. There are people at my age who still don't know what they want to be when they grow up, so to be 19 or 20 years old, it's perfectly normal to not know exactly where you want to end up, but I would say if you have something that you're passionate about, then absolutely follow that and work at it as hard as you can, because I think you will be able to make a career out of it if you're passionate about it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for taking your time. We really appreciate it.